Hey, Willie, how you doing? Good, good. This is Alex. I'm about just about a tenth of a mile away from your house. I'm right up here by the gate. Okay, so that's what I've heard. Even when you're at home, you like to stay on the bus.
There's Willie.
Sorry, Willie, we drove by. We didn't know which bus. You know this fella.
I know, Jesse.
Willie.
Planes don't knock down buildings. That building was blown up internally, and I'm not a smart guy, but I could see that. Is there a reason to investigate? Well, hell yeah.
This is true Texas, isn't it? Yeah, what is that?
Wow, look at the clouds.
I had to show off my bad boy.
Willie came up, on the plight of the farmers, and I had to give him a little hard time on it because I said, Willie, we can't just subsidize everything. I said, if we end up subsidizing everything, and my wife chewed me out the rest of the day. She said, how can you treat Willie Nelson like that when he came in? I said, honey, I got to be honest, even with Willie. I said, I'm a fiscal conservative, and I realize government can't be the answer for everything. That yes, government should be there to support, but that's part of the problem. We've made government become the answer for everything.
But I mean, now seeing trillions, not 700 billion, being just given to foreign banks, and then they're still holding liquidity back from the people. My whole point is, if they're going to take and devalue the currency and pump all this money out, might as well give it to the key infrastructure.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, my theory is that this whole thing started when agriculture collapsed.
He was saying that
the housing thing came second.
Tell us about it.
Well, I've been in Farm Aid a long time, and I've been seeing 8 million family farmers leave the farm.
Yep.
And there was 8 million, and now there's less than 2 million, losing 300 to 500 a week.
Yep.
The reason they're going is because they're going out and taking the land back, and now they're taking the houses back that they sold. I mean, they told the farmer to plant, fence post to fence post. We'll take care of you, buddy. Loaned him more money than he can pay back, and then he wound up losing his farm.
Yep.
Same thing happened to the house owner. Loan him more money than he can pay back. Now, the next thing you know, the government's got all the land, all the money, and we just give the asshole billion more dollars.
Yep. Alex, is that exactly what I related to you?
On the drive over here, he said.
I said what happened today in the mortgage industry is an identical repeat of what they did to the family farmers back in the 80s.
You're going to give a speech on that tonight.
And they saw how it worked then. It worked against the family farm, and actually it was my wife that made me aware. She said, this is the same thing they did to the family farmer. See, my wife comes from a farming community in southern Minnesota. That's how come she chewed me out so bad.
Well, we had 8 million small family farmers at the end of World War II, and they were economically they were doing well.
Yeah.
And we had made them do well because we had what they call 100% parity, which we paid the producers all their costs and production so that they wouldn't lose money. They had 100% parity. We're going to take care of our producers, steel farmers, whatever. That was the end of World War II.
Paid them what they needed to survive.
Because we needed them. We needed them to be strong. We had 8 million strong family farmers out there. After the war, they dropped that 100% parity to a 60 to 70 sliding parity, which immediately took 2 million farmers off the land. So ever since then, they've been taking farmers off the land, moving them off into the city, where they cause more problems there. They become part of the problem in the big cities, and every time 5 farmers go under, one business in that town goes under. So it's a domino effect, and it's been doing for 40, 50 years now. We've been losing our farmers and our small towns. They're all going into the cities, and they're all crowded up in there trying to look for work, and that's where we're at.
Yep.
Why do you think the central government and the big banks want people off the land to control us?
Well, yeah, they want the land. Whoever has the land and the money has the power. And they'll dole it out to you until you can afford it, and they'll sell you something, and they'll take it back once you've paid them all you got, and then they'll take it back and say, now it's mine again. Because of the economic situation that we're in now, and because of it's a downward spiral now. I mean, it's going back to the basics. So the big corporate banker is in trouble now. So who comes back onto the scene? The small town banker. He's going to come back in and he's going to save the farmers, because whenever they forced him out of business, the farmer would come in for a loan, and the guy said, "No, you can't pay. We want the farm." That small banker, a small town banker, will say, "Yeah, we're buddies, we're family, we're friends. I'll carry you this year." So that's coming back. That's the good news. We're all going to get back together and start taking care of each other. Grow our own food out here, sell it here in town, consume it here in town. When you ate breakfast this morning, everything on your plate probably came from more than 1,500 miles away. So we need to stop that, because the environment is screwed up when you start importing everything. So we raise it here. Sustainable agriculture, local sustainable agriculture.
It's just like, and I know it's going the opposite way now, but when gas prices shot up to $4 a gallon, I actually took and looked at that and thought, yeah, that's horrible, but you know, for every dark side, there's always a light side.
Maybe we'll get on solar.
Not just that. What I went after was, you know, with gas being so expensive and healthcare being what it is today, one of the greatest things you can do for healthcare is preventative. That's the true measure of the healthcare problem. Is as much preventative medicine as you can do, the better it will be, because then you won't need the healthcare as much. Well, when the gas prices shot up to $4 a gallon, I kind of took it and said, you know what? This is going to force people to become more physically fit again. They're going to now, instead of driving to that local store with the car, they might walk. They're going to say, Jesus, with gas at $4 a gallon, I'll walk down there and buy the eggs and milk I need and walk home. Well, that walking alone is physical fitness, which means we're a country today of obesity. Well, with gas shooting up like it did, you may see obesity start coming down, and which turn our health industry will also prosper from that, because if we're all healthier, then there's not the expense.
Well, that's like
that
France.
They look at, and the more you can do of preventative, of telling people this is bad for you, just like when they warn you about cigarettes, or like we talked about the guy
McDonald's.
that did McDonald's. You know, I still can't figure out how they can put a warning on cigarettes, which take 20 to 30 years to kill you, when if you eat solely at McDonald's for 30 days, you're going to be dead. I think there ought to be a warning out there saying you must supplement your food, your nutrition. You cannot survive on McDonald's alone or you'll be dead, which was what that movie showed. You know, I've never ate there since. I have not eaten in a fast food place since I watched that movie, and I felt guilty because I thought, my God, I used to take my kids there.
Yeah.
I used to feed my kids there.
No, it's deadly. I haven't eaten in years.
You know, and so I stopped eating it. But then, as I was telling Alex, I said the great thing about what that gentleman did with that film, Supersize Me, he proved that one person can make a difference. Because he put this film out and he literally changed the entire fast food industry. They sued to try to not have him get them out, but when they lost that suit and the film came out, well, all of a sudden they started putting salads and fruit in the fast food places where you could actually go there.
And they stopped the supersize.
And they stopped, you know, offering the supersize. You now have to ask for it. They don't, when you pull up, would you like that supersize? Because remember the guy, every time they'd say that, he says, yeah. And cripe, he's eating that shit. And then I sat back and looked, and, you know, and I always try to stay in pretty good shape. And although I did get my hip replaced this year, really.
Oh, wow.
January. Yeah. So
What, you heard it surfing?
No, I heard it from 15 years of wrestling and 6 years of being a Navy SEAL. I think had more to do with it than any surfing did.
Not bad.
But I'll start running again in January. I decided to wait a whole year before I start my physical training hard.
Yeah, you really got skinny. I mean, you're still in good shape, but a couple years ago I saw you were like...
Oh, I don't want to be big.
Yeah.
I'm working as hard now to lose everything that I did to gain in the old days. Because I'm 57 now, and at age 60, I don't want to be 250 pounds.
No, I hear you.
I'd rather be down around 210, 215.
Wow.
So
shifting gears while we've got both you guys here together, why did you go public for 9/11 Truth, Willie? I mean, what made you take the plunge? You know, knowing you get heat for it, you've done that on so many issues. I mean, why did you speak out?
I never had any questions. When I first saw the buildings fall, I said, damn, it looks like Las Vegas. Looks like they're imploding some buildings. And I've seen buildings imploded. I know I've seen planes that hit buildings. Planes don't knock down buildings. Fire doesn't burn down buildings. that building was blown up internally. And I'm not a smart guy, but I could see that.
Oh, you're a smart guy.
And I could see that both of them fell exactly symmetrically together as, you know, the dunes did in Vegas. I mean, I was watching all of that in the third building. Nothing happened to it, and it fell. I said, damn, you know, what's going on?
Man.
And then the next thing I know, there's this big thing that this happened, and that happened when we knew that did not happen. So why did they do it? I have a theory. They did it so we could go to war. You know, why do they do everything? So we can go to war. We're the biggest arms dealer in the world. We sell bullets to both sides. We start a war over there and a war over there, and we stir it up. So whoever we want to win, to give them the best bullets. And that's what we've been doing for a long time.
Well, for people that can't believe that, there's examples like the Gulf of Tonkin where they claimed our ships were attacked, and that led to 58,000 dead Americans, over 1 million Vietnamese. So this has been done over and over again. And then the way they've taken our liberties, you know, they said Al-Qaeda attacked us to get our liberties, but then the government's been going after our liberties.
Well, that ain't unusual either. No, that's been going on ever since I can remember, and it's right now the last few years it's just gotten to where it seems like not only has it got worse, but people are more aware of it now. There's more knowledge out there than there used to be. There's more interest now than there used to be. There's a lot of young people coming along and say, "What the hell's going on here? Mom, Dad, are y'all stupid? You know, why is this legal? Why is that illegal? What's going on? What are your priorities?" And so they're getting out there and they're voting. There's more young people voting this year than ever. I voted early the other day, and they said voting was up like 30-40% early voting. So I got a lot of.
And in this state, that ought to be remarkable.
Yes,
it is.
I mean, this is supposed to be a big red state.
If there's one state in America that embarrasses me, and I hate to say it, it's Texas.
Yeah.
On their voting turnout. I mean, their last government election, 26% of Texans voted for their governor. That's horrible.
Well, yeah.
It's embarrassing.
We're a country. But I think this year there's more reason to vote. People will get up and vote against something.
Yeah.
More than they will for something.
Willie, specifically.
And this year they're voting against things.
Willie, specifically, you were talking about, you were starting to allude to, they went too far with 9/11, but in your own words, because it has backfired with 84% in major polls believing they're being lied to about it, and some polls about 60% believing it's an inside job. You know, polls 5 years ago, 36% saying inside job.
Wait a minute, Alex, I got to interject. Where are all these people? I'm running into the opposite. Nobody wants, everyone I run into does not believe.
But you're trying to talk to the government.
No. Even people on the street. I got chewed out yesterday watching a football game. When they asked me what I was doing, I said, I'm investigating 9/11. Oh, you're one of them crazies?
Well, I mean,
and
that's
these were
probably
regular people.
That's probably the
These were not people up in high in government.
Well, Jesse, you're asking me a question. Let me tell you.
Okay.
Angus and Reid poll, Wall Street Journal poll, 84% believe they've been lied to about the official story. I can show you hundreds of polls. All I know is I've done several thousand radio interviews where the talk show host is attacking me, and almost every caller agrees with me. Let's ask Willie. Willie, what response did you get for going public for 9/11 Truth?
Well, I had a lot of people that agreed with me, and I had a lot of people that didn't. I'd go on people's shows like Amy Goodman, and she's, she wanted to hear my views, and her and a lot of her listeners agreed that there is something there. There is things to be answered. There are questions. It's not a cut and dried situation. It never was to me. So, is there a reason to investigate? Well, hell yeah. Are there anything? Is there anything that they're trying to hide? Evidently, or they talk to Jessie.
Well, this is a paradox because most people I run into, privately will say, "Oh no, I know something's going on," or even publicly. Now, I do run into kind of the neocon 30%, pro-war people, and you're watching a football game, aren't you? With that kind of, and I'm not saying football, but that particular group. That's your Sean Hannity, Rush Limbaugh listeners.
No, it isn't. These are people I grew up with.
Really?
These are not Sean Hannity and Rush Limbaugh people.
Well, I'm guessing.
I was at I was at the Gopher game watching it yesterday with some friends that I've known since I was in 5th grade. And a few of them there, when they asked me what I was doing now, and I said I was investigating 9/11, they said, "You're not one of them crazies that thinks that there was da-da-da-da-da-da to it."
There's a certain percentage of the people who will not believe that their government will do anything
exactly.
You
And
have
it's
to,
bigger
you have
percentage
to
than
admit
you
Oh, they're there.
that there are that certain, I
And
don't know
they're
what it
bigger,
is, 10,
they're
20,
bigger than you
30%.
think.
But
It's
they
bigger
will
than you
not
think.
believe that their government is capable of doing what we say that may or may not have
Have
happened.
happened, exactly. Willie's right on with that, Alex. There is and it's
No, I mean,
bigger
I'm
than
not
you
saying
think
there
it
isn't.
is.
I'm not saying there
It's
isn't.
bigger than my in-laws.
Look.
I told you about my in-laws. They're elderly people. I try to show them this. They want nothing to do. They will not believe that our country, the great country that they all served and went through World War II and all of this, they refuse to believe
No, I know,
that
they're in
our
denial.
country could be evil.
Can't believe it. Well, it's
and
that
you,
myth.
and you can't. You're not going to change them. I mean, I've pleaded with them.
I
I've
think
said,
so. There's a lot of them
look
that are
at
not
this.
going to change their mind.
They will not
no
change
matter
their
what.
mind.
There's a lot of them that still love what's going on out there. They love the Iraq War. They don't know why. Mainly because they don't have any kids over there. It's your kids and my kids.
Well, that's what I was going to say, is that there is over 30% of the public still believes that WMDs were found, and around 30% of the public believes Saddam Hussein carried out 9/11. So,
I would say it'd be higher than that.
well, no,
probably, yeah.
but I
would
just
say
gave you
it's
the
higher
polls.
than
Well,
that,
no,
yeah.
it was
But
half.
I would say it would higher than that.
It was 55% 4 years ago, but no, it's about 35% now, 30%, depending on the poll. But that's what I'm saying, is that you've got 30% that think WMDs were found. They think Saddam carried out the attacks. So I'm not saying, Governor, that I don't understand that there's people out there, but they're complete zombies living in total denial, and we know who they are. Look, I don't care if they say WMDs were found. I'm not going to agree with them because we know they're. I mean, it's delusional. So yes, you've got 30% that if they were told the moon was made out of cheese by George Bush, they believe it.
That's right.
So
Now you got it. Because he's government, and as long as the president says it, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's right, it's truth, and you're not going to change those folks.
I love my mother and father-in-law dearly, and I respect them. They're terrific people, but they just will not accept that our government would be evil.
That's right.
how do you get
They
past
just
that denial,
won't do
Willie?
it.
I mean,
You
how do you get
can't.
folks to break out? Well, some people break out of it.
I
Not
don't
many.
worry about them.
Yeah,
I
you
go on
can't.
with my thinking and my
That's right.
my job, and
That's
let
all you
them
can.
live with their thoughts. I don't have to be responsible for them.
Yep.
Do you think the truth of 9/11 will ever officially come out like other
No.
things have?
I don't know. The truth about John Kennedy didn't come out, or so.
Exactly.
I wanted to get you to talk about Kennedy. Give us your view on that.
I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened at 9/11. I do know that a lot of investigations went on Kennedy that were stifled, just like what you're doing now. They tried to hold that back, and we know he was killed. We don't know who done it. The other argument of 9/11, we know those buildings fell. Now, a lot of people would think it was done this way. We think it was blown up intentionally. So we're never going to be able to convince everybody, and we're never going to really know for sure.
Yeah.
And Willie's exactly right, because the simple way they get to that is by the removal of all evidence.
All evidence is gone.
Like when John Kennedy was assassinated, the first thing Lyndon Johnson did was he sent the limousine was where a homicide took place. There should have been the yellow tape around that limo. That limo shouldn't have been touched till investigators went through it with a fine-tooth comb. Instead, LBJ orders it sent to Cincinnati. It's cleaned and refurbished. Not one person got to look at the actual crime scene, which is backwards to what normally is done. That's what causes, for me, the light to go on, because when they start doing a crime scene the exact opposite of the way it's supposed to be done, that tells you that there's ulterior forces involved here. Now you shift to 9/11. In 9/11, the high priority was removal of everything. It was not investigating it. There were people, the priority went to the removal. The investigators were considered secondary. Well, that's the exact
Well, they
opposite.
kept them out.
Well, that's the exact opposite of the way it should be. Hold off, Alex.
Black boxes.
That's the exact opposite of the way it should be. The investigation should always take priority, and even if they use the excuse, well, we were searching for bodies, there could have been alive people in there, which you can accept, it still doesn't relieve them. They could have removed that metal and put it somewhere to where later it could have been looked at.
And that's what we all assumed they were doing.
They were doing, but it turned out they weren't doing that. They were destroying it all. They were building a new ship out of it as a monument. They were selling it to China. and melting it down and doing everything. And so it's come down to today, and Willie's exactly correct. We will never know, because here's the reason. Now we're all experts.
That's right. And
Because with no evidence, with no concrete scientific evidence to go to, all of our opinions are valid, whether they be for or against, because there's no
But
way
isn't
to
the
the
same
disprove
thing
anyone.
happened at the Pentagon.
Yeah.
The very same thing happened. They came in, they cleaned up everything, they took all the video cameras away, and they dared anybody to say anything.
Yeah, and so now there's no way to prove or disprove
Well,
anything.
Willie, isn't that right there historically, especially in a criminal investigation? A cover-up is generally seen as an evidence of guilt, or that there should be a massive investigation. Can you speak to that?
Well, I think that's true. Anytime you cover up evidence or take evidence away, you have an agenda there. You're trying to stop people from knowing what happened. And I really do believe that's what happened.
Okay, I'm gonna go down there. I'll try the guys. I got a rehearsal this afternoon. I'll see you. I'll give you.
Willie, I'm going to let them drive. I'm going to ride with you, okay?
Sure, get in.
There you go.
Oh, look at that little one there. Huh? Look at the faces. How do you not love them? I even became a lover of horses because my wife had them, and I had a ranch for a while. And I learned, being a city kid, that every horse has its own personality. And once you're around them long enough, you begin to realize that they all have their own little personality. You got to laugh, don't you? Here's Willie Nelson driving an old pickup with the front end that needs a new paint job and this and that. And I'll bet you Willie's had that pickup now for at least 10 years. Oh, yeah, I remember now being up here. Sure, there's Willie's town. Hell yeah. Because I was here before when you did a thing. Willie's got his own western town right there. Shoot, it's like coming into the Gunsmoke. Look at this. You know, you expect two guys to come walking out and shoot it out in the street. Draw! Here's the saloon with rooms. And over here's the dance hall, and here's his world headquarters. Which, this is where Willie will meet the press and stuff when we were campaigning for Kinky. Everything was done right here. This is true Texas, isn't it?
Yeah. And I don't know, I kind of had the pick of the lot, and I could have gone anywhere, basically, in the world, and I chose to come around here on this hill. But I think it's the prettiest place in the world.
I like it because there's lots of little hills and big ones. It's really varied.
Sunsets and sunrises are just incredible. And you can see storms coming from 30 miles away.
Yep. That's why I moved to where I moved to in Mexico.
Just to get away from those tornadoes.
Well, not just that. I moved down there. I got hurricanes, but only in the season. But I'm not usually there. My son went through one when he was
Look at the
there.
shells.
But no, I moved to where I moved in Mexico because I didn't want to hear a phone ring. And down where I live now, down there, I got no phone. So I go 6 months without hearing the phone, which is an
Willie,
enjoyable thing.
Oh, God. Man, it smells good. That's a cedar?
It's cedar, yeah.
Oh, that just opened my whole, man.
Opens your pores. Got a couple guitars here, huh, Willie?
Got a couple.
Sit down and play them now and then.
Willie, it's really classy, isn't he?
Look at that. No, I love it though. This is the workroom.
Yeah. I like how the kitchen's big, because I live in my kitchen.
Yeah. Oh, Annie's a great cook, and she insisted on that big bar, and she uses all that stuff really good.
Wow. Wow.
So will you guys actually rehearse right here, Willie?
My two boys grew up here, and I kept guitars and drums out, and for a while they didn't fool with them, but now they're great. They got their own band, and one of them plays really good drums, the other one plays really good guitar, sings nice.
Wonder where they got it.
I don't know.
They manage it big enough. So I, being like a typical former service guy, felt that I guess it's my obligation to go down and, you know, talk to these guys. So I went down, but being who I am, I got down there and, you know, in the bowels of the Capitol, right in the Capitol, and it was in the basement. I'll never forget it. They were seated all in a big half circle, and I had the chair in the center. And that's where I was put, with this half circle group of 23 members of the CIA. And I think the first thing that really made me, got my awareness up, was as I looked at them all, they were all your neighbors. I mean, you weren't looking at James Bond here. You know, you went down there with the feeling you were going to walk in and see all these former Navy SEALs and former Delta Force guys who are now out and they're now working in the intelligence community and all this. It was Grandma Jones down the street. It was so-and-so. I mean, they were of all ages.
You knew them?
No, I knew none of them, but these were the 20, they looked, that's the part I didn't do, Willie, is the fact that when I looked at them, I saw my neighbors. Not actually. What I meant by that, Willie, was I saw my people just like my people you'd never suspect. As these are people in the Central Intelligence Agency. They were of all ages, all colors, all looked like almost the same, different categories of wealth.
What kind of training do you think they had?
I don't know. This was part of it, though.
Oh,
no, this was part. No, I'm sure they get trained and actually, I found out this was actually many of them's part of their training. This was a training exercise that was likewise going on, as well as fact getting. And so I sat down and I looked at them all, because I wrote about it in my last book, and so I don't mind talking at all about it. I remember I looked at them all, and the first thing I said, before you ask me any questions, I got a few for you that I'd like answered. I said, quid pro quo. You know, if you ask me questions, I get to ask you questions. And I said, my first question is, what are you doing here? And the head guy, they were very formal. They were always governor, sir, very much that way, very respectful. But I remember the head guy looked at me and he said, well, what do you mean, governor? And I said, well, what I mean is that your mission statement says you're not to be operational inside the United States. What are you here for? This is clearly inside the United States. Well, I got hemmed and hawed and didn't really get an answer, you know, double talked and all that. Then I said, my second question, I said, I want to go around the room, and I said, I want you to tell me your name and what you do. Half of them wouldn't tell me their names, half of them wouldn't tell me what they did. Who knows if they're really telling you their correct name, no way of knowing. And so I said, well, look, if you're not going to cooperate fully with my questioning, I said, I'm probably going to find it difficult to fully cooperate with yours. It's got to be equal here. So I ended up, and the amazing thing, like I said to Alex, or made mention to him, was that all of their questions dealt about how I won the election. They wanted to know what we did, how we did it, did we think, da-da-da-da. And so when I got done that day, I drove home, and all the way home, I kept thinking, it was on my mind, and I kept thinking, who would I call? Who do I know that could answer these questions for me or help me? And then the name popped up, Dick Marcinko. Do you know who Dick Marcinko is? Well, Richard Marcinko is the author of the Rogue Warrior books. He's a 32-year member of SEAL Team. And Dick created SEAL Team 6, which is the anti-terrorist unit. These are the guys that have hair like you, Willie, and beards, and you'd never suspect they're in the United States Navy. They're deep undercover, you know. And Dick created them. He created Red Cell, and Dick had retired after 32 years. He's a good friend of mine. So I got home and I rang Dick up, and I told him what happened that day. And I says, Dick, I said, you got any idea why the CIA, 23 members, would want to interview me? And Dick starts laughing on the other end, and I said, what's so funny? He said, well, I've been out of it a few years, so he said, I can't directly tell you why. He said, I don't know directly why, but he said, I have an idea. And I said, well, Dick, your idea is going to be better than mine. I said, I had 6 years in the Navy, you had 32. I said, you got a lot more expertise. I said, what's your idea? He said, well, he said, here's what I believe. He said, they didn't see you coming. He said, and then it made sense. He said, their job is to gather intelligence so that they can report that to the government, and the government can then make decisions based on the gathering of that intelligence. He said, clearly they didn't see you coming.
They wanted to know how you did
And
it.
they wanted to know how you did it.
Yeah.
And Dick goes, they also wanted to know, are there more of you on the horizon? Is this a trend we're missing? Are we missing something here that could be happening within the United States, like the next election? Are we going to see 4 more independent governors win? Or is Minnesota kind of an isolated incident here? And when Dick got through saying that to me, I thought, he's right on. That's exactly what it was.
My intelligence gathering around here in Texas, I learned about this in the mid-1990s. The CIA, every police chief, every major sheriff, the county commissioners, they first come in and assess you and admit they're there from the CIA, even low-level people. And then they find out, they've also been tracking most of these people and have files on their psychological makeup. And then they try to compromise them. And I've interviewed the San Antonio police chief on video. I've talked to the head of emergency management in Kingsville. I've interviewed the police chief of Alice, Texas. And you can tell the ones that have taken the bait and those that haven't. Allie Phillip has been in the Army intelligence, 20-something years, on a police force. After that, they come in and they just said, hi, we're Delta Force, and we just want to be friends with you, and we just want you to take, well, they went to him and a whole bunch of other people, the fire chief, all of them. Here's all this money. We'll give you this money if you'll just be our friend and let us do some operations around here, some secret operations, but also some training. And then that's how they corrupt the local government. And then that's also who they find out who isn't going to work with them.
They asked you who your campaign manager was?
I don't recall if they did or not.
They probably wanted to know who the brains behind you brains.
Well, if they really got in that deep, Willie, they'd find out that we were flying by the seat of our pants.
That's why it's so hard to.
I laugh today because they all thought that we were some big piece of intricate machinery that defeated the system, and it was the opposite. We didn't know from week to week what we were truly going to do next, and we went with the flow of how the campaign went. And I laugh because I only raised $300,000.
Well, you caught a wave of also popular discontent, and people liked you.
Well, the big thing was because I didn't have to buy name recognition in Minnesota. And when and plus I had a statewide radio show that I did before, so I was able to expound my political positions all the way up until they pulled me off the air when I filed.
Without going through their normal media filter, you were able to get right to the people.
You know Al Franken?
Yeah.
He's running for Senate.
But I oppose him.
Yeah.
I support Dean Barkley, who you met down here. Dean's running instead of me. I thought about running, and I got right on the verge. And in fact, I don't mind telling the story. It ended up a coin flip.
That you either were or would not.
Yeah, because I came home that day and it was 4:00, and my wife and we looked at each other, and I said, well, what should I do? The filing closed at 5. I knew I had to leave at 4 to get there by 4:30 to complete it in time. And I turned to Terry, my wife, and I said, honey, what should I do? Because I constantly fight it, Willie, of the fact that if not me, then who? Mm-hmm. And I think back to our forefathers of our country and remember how they put their asses on the line. That I remember Ben Franklin said, what was his quote? If we all don't hang together, we'll
hang separately.
Hang separate, however it went. But it meant, in other words, we're all going to get hung. If we don't succeed, we're dead meat.
But that's the good part about the point of no return. You're committed.
And and so that's the fight I went through. Of what do I do at this point in my life? I'm 57, and I kept thinking, this is 6 years. That means I won't be done till I'm 63 at the soonest. And I thought, I don't even like these people. Why would I want to go hang out with them for 6 years? Why would I force myself to go? It's almost like sentencing yourself back into jail. It's like violating your parole
they asked
on
me
purpose.
To run for years after this. They asked Senator Cox all that local stuff.
No, he won in a minute.
I couldn't get through the cocktail parties.
Yeah,
my health wouldn't take it.
Yeah, no. I mean, and I sat and thought, this is like being on parole where I am now with freedom. and purposely violating my parole to go back into jail.
Yeah.
And I thought, I don't want to go to jail. So I was so torn, and I'll never forget, my wife looked at me and she said, we've been together 33 years now. I said, yep. She said, you've always believed in fate and destiny, haven't you? And I said, yeah, pretty much. She looked at me and said, flip a coin. And it hit me, and I looked at her and I said, you're right. Let's leave it to fate and destiny. So I walked over, grabbed a quarter, I walked to the center of our floor, and I looked at my wife and I said, heads I run, tails I don't. She nodded at me, I flipped it up in the air and it came down tails. And I looked at my wife, I said, I don't run, let's move on. And she actually broke down and looked at me and goes, you don't want to go 2 out of 3? And I said, if I do that, then it was failed to do it in the first place.
Yeah.
I said, I can't do that.
That's
I said,
neat.
we left it to fate and destiny, and fate spoke. If I was meant to have run, it would have came up heads.
I believe that.
Yeah, and it came up tails, and so I moved on from that point, and I've tried not to look back. That's when I called you, Alex, and said I'm not running.
Yeah.
You know, because that was what did it. And if I did ever move to Texas, it would be by Austin.
Yeah.
Not only because of the people and how they think here, because they, you know, but Austin's a beautiful area around here. I mean, it's just gorgeous to look at it and all that. And the place I won't move to in Texas, Willie, Odessa and Midland.
Been out there.
Oh God Almighty! I drove through there 2 years ago, and I couldn't. I don't know how they live there. I mean, you look.
Very scenic out there.
Yeah, you get out there and it is so flat, and all you see 360 degrees around you are oil pumps doing this. I mean, every direction you look, all you see is an oil pump going up and down, and the smell. Now, I don't know if the people get used to it who live there, but if you're not living there, when you drive to Odessa and Midland, Texas, the natural gas and oil smell actually made my eyes burn.
Well,
Houston used to be like that.
Just driving through there.
I worked a lot of, the early days, there was a club over there called the Stardust Club, and a guy named Herman Lawyer ran that club, and I played it 100,000 times at least, and it's Midland, Odessa, the greatest people in the world out there. I mean, old rough cowboy western folks out there that salt of the earth, and back when the days when you know, you want to drill oil, drill on my property. I need the money, you know.
Yeah.
Now they're bitching about drilling. I said, you know, drill over here, drill over there. We didn't ever care down here. We always thought it was, you know, to have an oil well out in your backyard wasn't a bad deal. You know?
Hey,
Just walk around on the porch out there.
Willie, how old is this house?
30 years.
That's all? So you just built it that way, huh?
Yeah.
So you built it because when you look at it, it looks like it's something way back in the...
That's the way they used to build the original log houses down here. They'd run those logs long ways where they would make good insulation in the winter and the summer. You could store meat and a lot of stuff in there. And the people lived in these kind of log houses until they could build their regular house outside.
Sure.
yeah.
See how these logs go crossways? It's got concrete and sawdust. And
Yeah, all over the place. You'll see newer houses and these built next to them.
what you didn't expect to see maybe is the snails and seashells.
Oh, yeah.
That all come from around here.
Yeah, I found some of these before in Texas.
Yeah.
How did they get here?
It was the ocean.
There used to be an ocean here.
So you're talking thousands and thousands of millions of years ago?
About 15 million.
Really?
Yeah. This was you know, about 200 foot deep sea. So part of the year, this would be like coral head sticking up there on this hill.
So like when you'll walk around here in the dirt and all that, occasionally you find snails and shells and that
Yeah,
stuff.
big, I mean, like those, I found a couple of those.
That's very interesting.
They're not as plentiful as they were when I was like a kid, because people you know, found them on the path.
What's that, Willie?
That's that place right
Yeah,
there.
what is that?
A couple come in there and built. It looks like a Roman cathedral.
Yeah, that's what I was
The
looking
Roman
at.
Colosseum.
House. Yeah. You know, they got more money than brains, I think.
Well, that's a good thing too to have.
I know, it sure screws up the side over there a little bit, but I don't care. I don't have to look at it.
Yeah.
The golf course is right over there.
Okay.
And we played over there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
We ought to walk out there for a second where it juts out.
On the front out here?
That's really neat. Wow, look at the clouds.
Now, how far does your land go, Willie? When we're kind of looking here, like, is that part of you, or is that someone else?
That's all my land over there. That's where the new road is over there is mine. It goes down just this side of the Roman Cathedral over there. And then it goes back over and includes those two green towers, the water towers over in the golf course.
Okay.
And that covers 9 acres.
Now,
and then
is that the old town we just came from?
That's
where's the town?
The town is right over that hill.
Right over the hill
Yeah.
there. Okay, that's what we just came from. Okay.
Well, this is relaxing right here.
It's a good place to come hang out.
Well, Willie, we don't want to take up too much of your
How
time.
far are we seeing here, Willie?
Look at the horses.
No, I mean that.
20 miles, maybe.
20 miles.
Yeah.
20